Good morning, afternoon, or evening, everyone. My name is Jeremy Walsh, and I'm the Director of Support, Training, and Documentation for BNI Connect. I'd like to welcome everybody to the webinar today. So today's webinar is We're on part 4 already of our series of 5 BNI Connect webinars, specifically designed for new members or people that are just logging into BNI Connect for the first time, or even some people that have been around a while and just want to learn a couple more things about BNI Connect. Today what we're going to be talking about is the tools and reports that are available in BNI Connect really for most members that are out there. Get some great things that we can use to invite visitors and to email the chapter and to be able to really get some of the statistics back out of the system. So those are the things that we're going to go into today. As I said, this is part 4 of 5, so tomorrow we're going to go through a deeper view of the visitor process, even though I'm going to show you a little bit of that today. Before we get started, just a couple of real quick housekeeping things. Firstly, this is a live webinar, so if you have any questions at all, please do feel free to type those questions in as we're going along. If you happen to be listening to this as part of a recording, you're always welcome to email questions to support@bniconnect.com. Now we do, most of these webinars are about a half hour, so we try to keep them to that half hour time frame. I like to be very respectful of your time. I do appreciate the fact that you're taking some time out of your very busy work days in order to learn more about BNI Connect and hopefully enhance your membership. That said, I do want to be respectful of that time, so we'll try to keep the content right to about a half hour. However, if you do have any additional questions or you want to just talk BNI, you want to talk shop for a while, you want to learn other things in BNI Connect, I'm always happy to stay on these calls until every single question has been answered. Now, the only silly question is the unasked question, so please feel free to ask anything that you would like to. All right, so as I mentioned, we also record these, so you can find those on the support site as well as on our YouTube channel, which is BNI Connect Global, on youtube.com. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So again, we're going to talk about some of the tools and reports in BNI Connect. Now, a lot of what you do on an everyday basis in BNI Connect is going to be right here on the home page. Submitting your referrals and tracking your referrals and all of that type of stuff. So we've covered most of that in previous webinars, but I do just want to make sure I point out a couple of things from the home page here. The first of which is there is a report right here at the top that says My Personal Participation Report. So if you're questioning your numbers, especially your, let's say, revenue received for the past 12 months or your referrals received, things like that, if you're wondering where those numbers are coming from, click this My Personal Participation Report, and that will give you a week-by-week history of your membership. So you can really see when, for example, when those absences were, or when the, what weeks you were credited with giving a referral or bringing visitors or thank you for closed business, all of that. It would also have your sponsored members and your training information in here as well. So it's a great tool to, just keep an eye on things and make sure that they're accurate. It's also important to know that what's in here and what's in here should match. But it also means that it's only going to show you things that your vice president has submitted. So if you want to check to make sure that it was submitted, like I can see that these numbers for me are accurate through April 13th. So our vice president has submitted last week's report at this point. If I didn't see that meeting here, I would know that that report had not been submitted yet. All right, and of course you can review all your figures as you've been adding them in by using the review reports, but really what I want to do today is make sure I go beyond the home page. Now, one of the things that we did yesterday, in yesterday's webinars, we did look at the things that are here under My Network, right? And this is really where all the social media type stuff is. It has our connections and our groups and our documents, our testimonials, events, and the messaging system. But what I want to talk about today is some of these menus up along the top. Now I'm going to switch over to a different membership real quick. This is my good buddy Marky Mark from the Funky Bunch that's in the BNI Burr chapter, because I wanted to make sure that we were looking at some of the things as they appear, as they will appear to you when you go over there. So the place that we hide just about everything else is under these menus at the top. So we do have the network, which is again all the social media stuff. We have operations and we have reports. Now, generally speaking, operations is where we go to do data input. Whenever we create something or need to enter something, we go to operations. Whereas reports are read only. So when I'm looking to get statistics, when I'm looking to get numbers back out of the system, that's when I go to reports. Again, operations is really more of the input side of things, and reports is the read-only output side of things. So let's take a look at some of the things that we can see under these menus. So let's go to the operations menu and take a little tour there. Now, as a member, there's not a ton of stuff here under the operations menu. Usually, if and when you become somebody on the leadership team, for example, you're going to see a whole lot more stuff in here. But as a member, we have access to a couple of things. We have things like manage visitors, where we can register a prospective visitor. That's an awesome thing to do if you have somebody you've invited to a meeting and they say, yes, I would love to come to that meeting. The best thing you can do is register them for that upcoming meeting. And the reason that we do that is because it will send them a confirmation telling them that they are now registered for the meeting. It will also send them a reminder 2 days before the meeting, letting them know. Now, filling out a visitor registration, very, very easy. You just click on manage or enter a prospective visitor, fill out the form, and that's it. They will get an email right away letting them know that they're registered for an upcoming meeting, and they'll get that reminder 2 days before the meeting as well. Now, again, tomorrow I'm going to go through the whole visitor process and show you all the emails and the things that go along with that process. So I'd love if you join me tomorrow and we can talk about that in more detail. The next thing here, we have meeting management. Now, what this allows you to do is you can go in, if you needed to, and view any individual POMS report entry, especially if you think maybe there was a mistake on it. But this allows you to view the whole chapter's activity for a single week. So if I go to View POMS Summary, I can choose a date range. Yeah, I can choose really any range I want to, and I can view any of the individual reports. So I can see here, this is Antarctica, and I can see that the reports from 3.1 and 3.22 actually are still in draft status. They were never completed, but the ones from 3.29 and 4.5 were completed. So I could click on the word completed, and this would give me the activity for that particular week. So this allows me to see what happened on a week-by-week basis. All right, let me go back to that operations menu. Now, the next thing we have on here is the goals program, and this is an optional tool that your leadership team may or may not be participating in. I know there are some regions, especially there's some regions in Florida, the Tampa Bay area, that every single chapter leadership team uses this tool. So if you're one of the lucky ones that are in that area, definitely go in and check this out. Otherwise, if your leadership team is participating in the goals program, you can follow along with the goals throughout the year. And you do that by clicking on View Chapter Goals. You can choose what date range you want to view them from, and you can go back in history as well if you want to. And this will show you what your leadership team had put in for goals and how they did in keeping up with those goals. For example, here in the Burr chapter, we were shooting for 86% attendance, 88% attendance, 85, 86, 87%, and so far we had 100% attendance in January, as well as in March, and 100% so far in April. So, and these are the other things that our chapter is looking to promote during that time. That's what these mechanisms are. So you can do that with all of the stuff. You can visitors and new memberships and number of members. These are some of the things that our leadership teams out there are tracking. And if they're using the tracking tool in BNI Connect to track those, you can follow along with your leadership team throughout the year. All right, the last thing on the operations menu here is the create email function, and there's a couple of different functions in here. The first of which is to email my chapter, and this is a really useful tool. If you need to get a message out to your whole chapter, now there is this tool up here that has this envelope. That I want to be very clear that is an internal messaging system. So what will happen is they'll get this message in BNI Connect, but the problem is not a lot of people are logging in and checking their messages every day in BNI Connect. So If you do need to get especially an urgent message out to your chapter, it's better to do so by clicking this button here, Email My Chapter. What that does is that gives you the most current distribution list for your chapter. So this is going to give you all of the email addresses for the people in your chapter. Now, I can remember before BNI Connect, if I needed to get a message out to my chapter, I would actually have to just go find the last group message and hit reply all. But you know what? It never went to all the right people because we'd have new people that had just joined that weren't on that last email. We'd have people that have left the chapter and don't want to get the email anymore. So this is the most efficient way. And all you need to do is you just copy this, right click and choose copy. And then you would use your own email program, start up a new message, and I highly recommend always putting this into the BCC line. That way you really cut down on the emails that, reply all and everybody gets, that message all the time. So I do recommend the BCC line. By the way, just a little computer thing. You don't have to have anybody in the to line. You can put somebody in there if you want to, or yourself, but really the only thing you need is to have people in the BCC line. All right, and because you're using your own email program, you'll have the sent items, and that email will go back to you and everything else along with that. Now keep in mind that this should be used really only for BNI purposes. You don't want to send out things like, oh, I forgot to tell you in my 60 seconds today, and by the way, we're running a sale. That's more direct selling, and a lot of people may consider that to be spam. So I would avoid doing things like that, emailing your chapter, but I would use it more for BNI purposes. All right, the next thing that's in here is the email visitor invitation. And the visitor invitation allows you to send out a customized invitation to a potential visitor. Now, this is a great thing to use. Let's say that you meet somebody out there at a networking event. And you're like, hey, I'd like to invite you to my chapter. That is what this is used for. By the way, this should never, ever, ever be the first time somebody's receiving the invitation. It's really meant to be a follow-up to a verbal invitation. Right? We want to verbally invite them first, and then we would send them this email invitation. It's really easy to use. So let's say I met somebody and I want to send them an invite. So Steve Miller from Miller Band, and we put the email address in there. So I'm actually just going to put my own email address in here. If you want to try this out, feel free to just send a copy to yourself. Now you'll get a CC automatically every time you send one, so you'll know that it went out and the person should have received it at that point. But if you'd like to just try it out and see what it does, just put yourself in so you can see what it looks like. Now the personal message, that'll appear at the top of the invitation, up in that first line above what's going to come through in the email, and I'll show you what that is. So this is the personal, oops, I didn't even spell that right, personal message, right? Now when I click send, it's going to take that, it's going to wrap it up, put a nice bow on it, and stick it into a nice email and send that over to me. So I should get that in my email, well, in just about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and wow, email's slow today. Here it is. So here is the message. You'll see that it has this is the personal message up at the top. It has how will you grow your business? How are you planning to grow your business? 210,000 members, $9.3 billion in closed business. This is what the invitation looks like, and it was written by the marketing department to appeal to people that may have never heard of BNI before. It also gives the person that you're inviting the ability to register themselves in RSVP for the meeting. And again, I'm going to go into much more detail with that tomorrow. All right, so the other thing that you may want to keep an eye on and keep a lookout for is that we do have a support site that has a whole bunch of information on it. If you'll notice that a lot of these things here have a little question mark in front of them, right? And if you click that little question mark, it will take you over to the support site, and it'll bring you to that help document for that specific issue. So it tells you exactly how it works, what it does. This is going to be really helpful on the reports if you're questioning where some of the numbers come from, or why do you want to use that. That is very helpful. But we also, if you go back to the home page of the support site, which you can access if I'm in BNI Connect, I could just click this question mark here in BNI Connect. That's the big question mark. That will take us over to the Connect Support and Resource Center. There's a ton of documentation in here as well that you can utilize in order to really get more information about a lot of things in BNI Connect, but also to get things like member resources. And this BNI Resource Center has just a ton of information about, let me just show you. We have things like if you're looking for the BNI logo, you can download the BNI logo. There's the great BNI Resource Center, the Member Success Center, where you can listen to, for example, podcast recommendations. These are all made by Dr. Meisner, and here's our recommended list of about 40 or so different podcasts that you'll be able to listen to. And of course, you can go to bnipodcast.com for even more information. You can check out our recordings of the webinars from here as well. So, as we're recording these, we're putting them up online, and this is a great thing if you'd like to share with your leadership team, your other members in your chapter as well. And of course, there's training and documentation, and if you want a sneak peek at the mobile that is coming out next Monday in the United States, you can get a tour of the mobile platform here in this quick BNI mobile walkthrough. All right, so that's the Resource Center. Let's take a look at some of the reports in the system. We have about 10 minutes left, so I want to go through probably about 5 or 6 of the reports in the system to show you what they're like. So to get there, we're just going to click on Reports, and we're going to look at these chapter reports. Now, there are a ton of reports. There's about 20 different reports in here. Again, I'm not going to go through all of them today. Really, my recommendation to you is to just click through them, is what it comes down to. You can't really break anything when it comes to the reports. The reports, as I said before, the reports are read only. So, just, again, click on them, see what it shows you. If you have any questions on what it means, click that little question mark in front of it. Shoot us an email over at BNI Connect Support, and we'll happily walk you through anything. But let me go through a couple of these that are, I feel, really important. So one of those is this chapter roster report. The chapter roster report, that's going to show you, well, quite obviously, your chapter roster. So it's going to show you all the people that are in position. So it'll show you your president, your vice president, and it'll show you all the members of your chapter, as well as their contact information. Now, the important thing, too, is, it's going to show you who is in the various positions. So that way, if you need to, for example, talk to the president, or you need to bring something up to the membership committee, you'll be able to do so. Now, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch back over to my account here, because I think it would be helpful for you to actually see some reports that have real data in them, as opposed to, basically my fake chapter up in Antarctica. I always say up in Antarctica. It's actually down in Antarctica, but just a habit, I guess. So let's take a look at some of the reports. And again, I'm a member, by the way. I'm a member in BNI Wakefield. So this is, this is how I use the system in my membership. So again, we have the chapter roster. Again, I can see all the phone numbers and names, and I can, if I need to call my director consultant, I can get their phone number right here. Now, the other thing that I use this report for is this has a very quick view of the last 90 days of activity. So we have given, received, visitors, one-to-ones, lates, and absences. So I use this a lot to really strategize, some things. If I see somebody that might be, for example, struggling with one-to-ones, maybe I want to reach out to them. I can see that, for example, Linda Edwards in my chapter hasn't had any one-to-ones in the past 90 days. Maybe I want to reach out to her and say, hey, why don't we do a one-to-one? That'll benefit the both of us. All right, the next one I want to show you is a couple down here, the meeting notes report. Now this one is actually very similar to the roster report in that it lists all your members and all of the, what category, what company they're in. But what's really important about this one, now some chapters do this already, but if your chapter doesn't provide a physical copy of the roster at each week, what this is used for is it's really to help you become a better referral giver, right? Because one of the things that we need to make sure that we do is pay attention when people are giving their weekly presentations, right? Because 60 seconds or 45 seconds or even 30 seconds, depending on how big your chapter is, that's just not a whole lot of time. Now, my chapter, we have 47, 48 members in our chapter. By the time we get 20 or 30 people deep going around the room, there's just no way that I could possibly remember what the first person or the third person or the seventh person was asking for their referral. So this is meant to print out and have with you at the meeting so that you can take notes while they are, giving their weekly presentations. If you don't like this format, you don't like this layout, the writing's too small, whatever else it might be, doesn't print right on your computer, really the thing that you can do is you can export this. Now you'll notice that on the top of just about every single report in the system, you'll see three options: export without headers, export, and then print. So I just showed you print. These two exports, there's a difference between the two. So export, what that's going to do is that's going to take everything that's on this page here, and it's going to export it, and it's going to put it out into an Excel file. So when I open up this Excel file, oops, let me get the other sheet over here. So when I open up this Excel file, what you'll see is everything that was in that report. So including all this stuff up here. So you can see it has, who ran the report and, when it was run. And this is great. If you're just going to save this on your computer and you want to go back and, know when you ran the report, that's great. However, if you want to do things like, oh, you know what, I want to sort this by first name instead of last name, I have all these merged fields and everything up along the top. It's a real mess. You have to delete all these and then unmerge, and it's kind of a pain. So that's why we have this export without headers. And what that'll do is it'll just take the data and bring it out to Excel. Right? So now when I open this in Excel, it'll allow me to do other things in the report. Right? So if I want to, I could just take notes electronically if I wanted to during the meeting. So if I had a tablet or a laptop and I wanted to do it and take notes that way, I can do it electronically, then save this on my computer somewhere so that I have it to refer back to in the future. Or I can, by the way, silly little Excel trick, I always love this button, Format as Table. It allows you to give a nice color scheme to it. Right? So I just made this all orange, but even more importantly, gives you these drop downs. So if I want to sort this, for example, by first name instead, I could do sort by first name, and now this is sorted by first name. But I could also do things like, you know what, that's not enough space to take notes. I want to make this, a little bit bigger, before I print it out. Again, once you get it out to Excel, you now have full access to do whatever you want with this data. All right, now the next one down is the Summary Palms report. The Summary Palms report is a great report. This is the reports back on the home page are all about you. This particular report is for the whole chapter. So I can see what the chapter statistics are. By default, it's going to give you the last rolling 6 months. So it's going to give you the previously completed 6 months. So it's going to be, in this case, again, October through the end of March. But you can actually change this. Just click in that date field. It'll allow you to choose a different date. So let's say I wanted the numbers for last year. I can get the numbers, let's say, for January 1st through December 31st, right? And if I click Go, this will give me my chapter's Palms report, or my, the statistics for my chapter for the entire year. Right? And the other thing is that, in this report, by the way, If you try to do the math and you say, okay, well, let's add up our visitors or our one-to-ones or whatever, these numbers at the bottom will not be the sum of what's in these columns. Now, the reason for that, by the way, is simply that you'll note up here it says the report totals include the contributions for dropped members. So that means that people that have left our chapter over the past year or so, we're still counting their contributions in the total. However, we're hiding their names from the list. If you want to see those people and their specific contributions, click on Show Dropped Member Names. And that will show you everybody that's been a member of your chapter during that time period, even though they may no longer be a member. All right, and there's a lot of different reports that you can run here. I highly recommend, as I said, clicking through these reports and seeing what they do and seeing what they say and the information that you can get back out of them. But we are just about at the bottom of the hour, and there's one more little nifty trick that I wanted to show you before we ran out of time today. So that is, I'm going to go back to my other account here, but I'm going to go back to the home screen. And over on the left-hand side, you see here, My BNI Business. And again, we talked about My Network before. But there's another thing under it that says Chapter Shortcuts. Now, what the Chapter Shortcuts are is that is your own personal customizable menu for your favorite reports and functions within the system. So that instead of having to go Operations, Chapter, Create Email, Email My Chapter, I could just go to Chapter Shortcuts, Email My Chapter, and boom, I have the chapter emails there right away. I don't have to remember where to go to find it. And this actually saves a significant amount of time because you'll notice that when I go from here to here, it shows up right away, whereas if I go here, Operations Chapter, it actually has to redraw, refresh the whole screen. So it saves not only a couple of clicks, but it saves a couple of seconds worth of screen refreshing. Now this list itself, you can customize it. If I click the Configure button here, that's going to allow me to, I can change the order. So let's say I use that Email My Chapter all the time. I can bring that up to the top of the list. Let's say that I never use the Email Chapter Visitors. I never use the MDR, the Membership Dues Report. I never use this report, this report, this report. I can take those things out of my list here. But you know what? I really, really want the Summary Palms report. I want that one. That's going to be the one that I'm going to put up at the top here. And once I get this the way I want it to be, I just click Submit. I'm going to close out of this, and when I go back to the home screen here, it's going to quickly refresh, and now it just gives me my personal list in my own personal order. And that, my friends, is the member tools and reports here in BNI Connect. And we are just hitting the exact bottom of the hour right now. So what I'd like to do is to open this up to questions. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, compliments, complaints, criticisms, whatever you got, please type that into the questions panel. And I'd absolutely love to answer those questions now. While you're thinking of any questions, please do remember that we are recording this session. I will be making it available just as soon as I can, probably towards the end of the week. I have to convert it into a special format, then get it up to YouTube and be able to share that both on YouTube and our support site. So feel free to share that once it's up there. And of course, a good referral for me is always, please let other people know about these webinars. Now, we only have one webinar left for this month and for this series. It's going to be inviting and registering visitors. So I'm going to go a little bit deeper into that whole visitor process and show you all the steps. So that is tomorrow at this same time. Oh, so Jenny has a good question. What do we write in the box to the right of our picture? So right here, this is kind of like a, almost like a little status message, if you would. It's not quite as evolved as, a Facebook feed or anything like that, but you can really put whatever you'd like on there. It starts you off by saying Marky Mark is working on. You can say really anything you want. A good referral for me is a new attendee to one of my webinars. Right, so it could be, whatever you'd like. Now that's going to show up if I go to my profile, or anybody that sees the profile, they will see what's written there under your little status message. So that's the purpose of it. And really you can put whatever you'd like in there. You should keep in mind that it should be appropriate to networking. Christy says, on the POMS reports, what do the columns RGI, RGO, RRI, RRO mean? Sure, I'd be happy to go through that. So the columns on the POMS report, let's take a look at that. I'm going to go to my personal POMS report here. Or actually, I can go to the chapter POMS report. So these numbers along the top, so well, not just numbers, but POMS, this is present, absent, late, medical, and substitute. So this is the attendance record. RG, so there's RGI, RGO, RRI, RRO. So RG stands for referrals given. RR stands for referrals received. That's the two sides of the referral relationship, right? The referral giver and the referral receiver. Now I and O, that stands for inside and outside. So there's different levels of a referral. So an inside referral is really when two people in the chapter use each other's services. So in other words, the business stayed inside our closed network here. An outside referral is when I refer somebody that's not in the chapter to one of my chapter members. So it could be my mother, it could be my uncle, it could be my next door neighbor, it could be my cousin's best friend's brother's dog groomer, whatever it is. I'm bringing a new relationship into the network, and that's what an outside referral is. So we have our RGI, RGO, RRI, and RRO. Via's visitors, one-to-ones, are meetings between two members. TYFCB is thank you for closed business, which is a measure of how much revenue that person is generating, not how much money they've made, how much revenue they've generated for other people in their chapter. And CEUs are things like today, learning opportunities. So does that answer your questions, Christy? Awesome. Jennifer says, I was interrupted during the webinar. How soon can I watch this one again? So I probably won't have this one up for a couple of days yet. However, if you'd like to, either A, shoot me an email. I can just give you a raw copy of this if you'd like to download it. I usually don't do that just because it's such a big file. The alternative is if you go to the support site, you go to live and recorded webinars, you should be able to, at the very least, watch last month's recording, which is up here already. So we have, if I scroll down towards the bottom, we have our member tools and reports here. And you can watch that particular copy if you'd like to. Otherwise, there will be an April one up there shortly, and you'll be able to watch it there. Janet says, thanks for another great session. Please remind us how to enter the education unit. So the education unit, go back to your My BNI Business, click on Submit CEU Slip, and give yourself a 1 in the second column here for a BNI webinar. All right, so Brian says, what about giving a referral to someone who was a guest at our chapter? So you are more than welcome to give referrals to guests of the chapter, Chamber of Commerce people, your brother, whatever else it is. But the thing is, we only record the activity between our chapter members. So you can't record that one in BNI Connect, and you can't get credit for it in the POMS report. We're only recording the referral activity between chapter members. Okay, so unfortunately, you can't record that here in BNI Connect or, again, in the POMS report, just for chapter members. All right, awesome, Brian. Same thing with one-to-ones, by the way. We're only recording one-to-ones with chapter members. Christy says, at BNI Mid-America, by the way, for people that are from other places on the call, that's the Arkansas, St. Louis regions of BNI. we get a traffic lights report, and some columns say APW for referrals, attendance, visitors, etc. Yeah, there's a lot of external tools that various regions use. One of them is called the member traffic lights. There's another one that's called the Power of One report. And really almost all of them are just colorful interpretations of the summary POMS report. So if you're looking for where those numbers come from, in almost all cases, it is from the summary POMS report. So if you need to compare numbers, that is where it would be coming from. So does that help, Christy? All right, what else? Any other questions? Again, I love questions. This is what I do all day, every day. I answer questions about BNI Connect. Christy says APW, average per week. Yes, that is my guess. I don't think I've seen that particular report for your particular region. But that said, that sounds like it's about right, APW average per week. Almost all of those reports, again, the traffic lights, Power of One report, they're based on a 6-month average. In some cases, it's a 1-month average. But it's in most cases, it's a 6-month average of activity, and it's done on a per week. And that's really where the title Power of One comes from. For a lot of people that use that type of report is because what we're shooting for, what we're really trying to achieve is one every week. So one referral. We want to give somebody, want to generate a referral for somebody every single week. And to do that and to help support that, we want to make sure we're having at least one one-to-one per week, right? And on top of that, to make ourselves better and stay engaged in networking, want to make sure we have at least one CEU per week. And we also would like to grow our chapter. So for that, we want to make sure we're bringing one visitor a month. And we want to make sure that we have no more than one absence every 6-month period. So that's where the Power of One comes from, and that's where the average per week comes from as well. Awesome. Any other questions? All right, if there's no additional questions, thank you so much for being here again today. And especially you guys, again, I do recognize a lot of names on this call of people that have been here for just about every single webinar. Thank you so much for investing this time in your membership. If there's anything else I can do to help make you successful in BNI, please just let me know. In the meantime, I wish you all a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll see some of you tomorrow. And happy connecting.